fellow American, everyone around the world. Before we get started, I got a prelude to the topic that I will be discussing here in a little while, but this one came to me talking about time. We're in a new time. We're starting a new year. And after we do this letter of Colossians that I'll be discussing later, and then we'll be reading it, we're going to be starting a new year, a new time. And we're all making goals and plans. That's kind of why I'm bringing up Colossians and the meaning of this book and why we're doing it. And so back to time. We spend a lot of time wasting time. We think we're busy, but we spend a lot of time wasting time. I can still quote you Seinfeld and Andy Griffith and these type of shows. That was me wasting time when I could have been doing other things productive. Anything. Memorizing anything. So, I know it takes 80 hours to read a Bible straight through. Now, I'm not recommending reading it straight through. Watch my other videos that we'll be discussing on reading the Bible this year in a particular order, depending on whether you've read it or not, whether you're a beginner or the advanced. But it takes 80 hours. Do we have 80 hours in a year that we could one time read our Bibles all the way through in an order? Now, after Colossians today, we'll be reading it in that order. So please like, share, and subscribe to this so we can continue on reading together to make sure that we finish through it together at a particular time. Not 5 years down the road, or for myself, 48, before I read it through for the first time. No, I've read it in many books and chapters. Rephrase. I've read it in many ways, but read the entire books in different orders. Not so much the Old Testament, but moving those prophets and reading them with Kings and Samuel, putting Chronicles on the end. That's how the Hebrews read them. And so we should do the same for most of those. Read those prophets up where the kings are. But we'll discuss those, and we'll discuss the order. But the New Testament as well. So anyway, that's just a prelude to what we're going to be talking about with Colossians. Now, talking about time. How quick do we want to read through this? What's our time period? Do you want it to take the entire year? Because then you're basically reading just a few chapters or a few letters at a time. So there's a way we can do this. We read chunks of the Bible, and tomorrow, that's where we start on our second day. Today, we're going to understand what Colossians is about, why Paul's writing this letter, and what's the point and the purpose of it. Okay? So we'll be back right after this prayer, and then we'll start on Colossians. Now, Paul, who's in prison in Rome for the first time, he's in house arrest. So he's writing these letters out, corresponding back and forth to different congregations, different churches that he started. But this particular case was the one he did start. So in Colossae was a preacher who was a disciple of Paul's that they had met in another town. His name was Epitaph. And you'll read that in Colossians. Now, as you go through Colossians, I will read it together. We'll read it out loud. But as you read it individually by yourself, either now or later, You'll see what we're speaking of right now. And so what he was trying to tell them and explain to them was, you can't let everything come into your congregation. You know the old saying, you can't have, the world in the lifeboat's to be in the world, So that's what we're talking about. That's what Paul's talking about here. He said, and see, we have to understand about Colossae. It's on a main route to Asia. So in this particular town, you had everything there that you could imagine going on there. And this little church, this congregation, trying to survive. And you have all these people bombarding them with ideas and thoughts and different ways of thinking and different philosophy. Because they were studying everything. Not just studying everything. They were worshiping everything. The sun, the moon, the stars, the alignment of the stars. How we do that today, you read your astrology. Well, that's what they were talking about. And Paul's saying, you don't need to have all that stuff. Why are you adding that in? And that's what I get in trouble myself, because I'm like, why are we adding all this stuff in? When you're out talking to people in the real world, if you will, and they're like, well, what's this Easter bunny? And what's this rabbit? And I have to explain to them, it has nothing to do with Yeshua and what he's teaching. I said, we just added it in, thinking we needed to add more stuff. You need to do nothing but the opposite, but get all of that out. Clear it, purify it, simplify it. And that's what Paul's telling them. This is simplicity. He said this is the simplest thing you can do. It's not man's religion. It has nothing to do with that. And that's why today this is important. When we're making up all these rules and we're going to quit doing this and quit doing that. If this is something you need to quit, and it's in your life, then you quit it forever. You just let it go. If it's something you only have to do it for 21 days, then what's the point? You're adding that to your religion. Now, I understand if you want to cleanse and all of that. I do understand that. Do it. We're to fast and pray. But not as some, whatever you want to call it, addition. Because all we need is Yeshua to get us to Yahweh. That's the whole purpose, and that's the whole point of this. And Paul's telling everyone, you were baptized with him. You were washed with him. You die by his sins. You die by your sins. You don't have to quit eating the meat, or not doing that, or adding this. What he's telling them is, this is all you need. And by adding all this stuff, you're saying that these two people, Yeshua and Yahweh, are not enough. That's what Paul's telling them. All this stuff, it's too much. They're enough. They're it. They're always. I get so in trouble when I try to say that. This pretending and whatever. It's not helping the gospel. And that's what I was saying earlier, when you're out talking to people and you haven't explained, no, this is different. That has nothing to do. That has nothing to do with our gospel, the reality of it. It's a game we play. We think we have to add it, but by subtracting it, we grow leaps and bounds. And Paul's telling them that. That's what Colossians is all about. It's having purity. It's having him, and that's all you need. Ever. And nothing else matters. If you get that in your heart, then you know you can't be tempted. There's nothing that you else need but that. Then all you want to do is be with your brother, be with your sister. And you want everyone to join you to be a disciple of Christ. Because that is what is in that book. It breaks my heart. To know that the lies that's been talked about in this book our lives. I've read this, not till I was 48 years old, but I knew history. I knew American history. I knew some world history. For the most part, knew the wars. We all know the basics, but I dig into it a little more. And so, this Bible, these many books of the Bible, cemented the world view for me. Adding His Spirit. And I know they've lied about it. And I know they've lied about it. They've been trying to suppress and bury this Bible from the day it was written. Every generation, every conqueror, every king, and every queen has almost tried to suppress this in one form or another. The emperors do not want you to read this Bible because you might believe in it and understand that if I don't harm my brother or my sister, and I don't steal, and I don't kill, and I don't want, and I don't lust, we live in a utopia. But we'll never have that because there's too many trying to say that He's not real, which is a lie. Yahweh is our intelligent designer. Yeshua did resurrect from the dead because Yahweh can do that. We will all have a resurrection. It'll just depend on the first one or the second one. Reading this Bible, learning Yeshua's way will get you to Yahweh. That's what's in this Bible. Yahweh is the intelligent designer. He is the archaeologist. He is the scientist. He is. And He is always. And that's all we need. We don't need all this other stuff. And that's what Yeshua was telling us. Because you're born new every day. In Him. With Him. Now. This year, let's read our Bibles. Let's read them. The science is in there. The history's in there. The math is in there. You just have to be able to read it yourself. And not have anyone else delusion you, thinking that they're not real. That's what's in Colossians. Now, let's read it for ourselves.